I guess what I want to do first is set the politician aside and the professional person. What's your heart feeling like right now? This has got to be a hard day for you.
It's a very rough day.
And
it also is a liberating day. And the reason why I say that is I've had people throughout my life that have used this as a weapon against me, that have threatened me, and no longer can that be the case. And the people, as I said, would go to my chain of command, even in the military. And you know what? I've served my community locally. I've been a police officer. I've been the elected sheriff. We achieved greater measures of performance, improved public safety, reducing emergency response times. I've commanded 700 active duty soldiers. I've responded to several thousand emergencies when people need help or there's a crisis. And these questions are never asked. I'm defined by the measure of how I contribute and add value in this world and to my community. That's how I want to be judged, and that's what I'd ask people to judge me by.
You've actually been kind of outspoken in some of these areas in the past, because I know that you've been outspoken about the fact that you were actually molested as a child by Catholic priests.
Yes.
And so these are the kind of sensitive issues that you've dealt with for most of your life, then, it sounds like.
Well, it's a difficult day, but it's not the most difficult thing I've ever dealt with. Not only having served overseas, been in difficult situations as a police officer, as a sheriff, dealing with traumatic situations for people, and then even in my own life. We all have a story. I'm not one that says, woe is me. I mount up and take ownership, take responsibility, and that's as I'm here tonight. I want to look people in the face and to see the measure of who I am as a person. I do not turn and run. I stand and fight, and I need and want people to see that in me, that's who I am, that's who I will always be. Whether it's a difficult circumstance or an issue or a vote, they can count on me. They don't have to wonder whose side I'm on if I'm 2,000 miles away behind closed doors. I'm on our side here, standing up for our rights and our issues of importance for our state. And I've tried to do that, and I think a lot of people see that I've done that.
Why did you wait so long to, come forth with the information? I mean, some people are going to question. They're going to think that you were being kind of sneaky beforehand.
Well, this is my personal life, and I believe that there need to be boundaries for everyone. This is not how I define or identify myself. I don't wear this on my sleeve. It's a part of who I am, and I'm not ashamed. But it's not how I define myself. I don't think that we are benefited, any of us, to define ourselves purely by our nationality or our religion or other measures. It's a part of who we are, but it shouldn't be the single identifier. The measure of who we are is defined by how we contribute to our society, to our country. I've worked very hard to do that as a police officer, as a sheriff, as an enlisted soldier, and then an Army officer. And I've put my own personal safety on the line for freedoms, for liberties. And so people, when they talk about our Constitution and defending it, you can be assured, especially knowing what you know, that I will fight for everybody's individual rights, their liberties, their personal freedoms, the Constitution, that it's not the federal government. Only the enumerated powers and authorities that are in our Constitution are given to them. Anything else falls to the states. And we've seen this amassing of power and influence and authority at the federal government, and that's what I'm against, and that's what I will fight to take down.
Okay, so let's talk about what differentiates you between the other candidates for Congress.
Well, you're certainly going to have somebody like myself who has firsthand experience. A lot of people talk about enforcing the law. A lot of people talk about we're going to fight these drug cartels. A lot of people talk about we're going to secure the border. And all of those things I have not only personally done, have improved safety, not just for my county, but for our entire state, bringing the largest significant drug bust in the history of Arizona right in Pinell County. A $2 to $3 billion bust. I've actually helped build border fence in California as a young lieutenant back 15 years ago. to stop the smuggling and immigration problem there. It shifted to Arizona. As a commander down in Yuma, that's what I've done. So I know what the answers, the solutions are to these issues from a first-hand experience when other candidates really don't understand it, never mind be able to speak to it. It takes nothing away from them, but that's just, these are issues of importance, and there's some clear issues, and I think Senator Gould referenced it earlier today too, is about the debt ceiling. We both said we would vote against an increase in the debt ceiling. That's a very clear difference against the congressman. He voted for it. In fact, so that's a significant issue.
Okay, so what are, real quick, what are the solutions to the border?
The 10-point border security plan, 6,000 troops, the double barrier fence with technology, with cameras, with infrared at night, with lighting, with sensors, and then third, in sequence, is the enforcement of the law. And that's not going on right now, contrary to what Ms. Napolitano is saying.
Okay, what would you cut in order to get that debt
The
down?
entitlements, that clearly we're spending far more than we take in. The entitlements, when you're talking about Medicare, Medicaid, and you're looking at the pricing for almost like a voucher system for people to be able to purchase in a competitive market for those. Looking at transparency in pricing is the second. Cross-border purchasing of insurance, so there's the competitiveness, which is currently not allowed, and then also tort reform, to reform it, to limit the liability. And these are four key areas that are proven as economic principles in America that will drive costs down instead of having a government takeover of health care at every level, whether you're on Medicaid or Medicare. And it's the same thing with Social Security. I'm not going to affect anybody who is on Social Security or is about to get on Social Security. Those benefits are locked from my perspective. I think what we look at is those who are far from retirement. We completely change the paradigm. What about having investment accounts where individuals, young men and women, can invest into these accounts where the personal wealth of the individual goes up? Talk about, this is a free market way of redistributing wealth. It's their own money, but instead of giving it to the government when there's really no anticipation of ever receiving it, why not doing it here where you personally own that account? These are free enterprise capitalist models of fixing that 45% of the budget that I'm talking about right here.
Okay, the Obamacare, would you take...
Lynn, I need that to be the last question. We've got a group of volunteers waiting for us.
Oh, sure. On Obamacare, do you... would you totally dismantle it and just start over from scratch, or would you keep parts of it and...
We cannot allow the federal government to get in between a physician and her or his patient. This is contrary to the essence of who we are as Americans. We have a good health care system. There's ways that we can drive costs down, which I just mentioned to you. And the government needs to get out of something that's working well. There's measures that we can take to improve in terms of cost to the government and the cost to the consumer, but not as a government takeover of health care or what people refer to Obamacare. That's contrary